Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a special agenda. I'm working on my sign language skills, so we are going to try to say it the way that I've been learning to sign it is wait. Welcome to special agenda. Thank you everyone for joining me today, and we'll be discussing the subject that I, as a parent, have been working on, and many other people, if you're raising special needs kids, are children who have any learning delays or issues, or children who have even anxiety issues. It is crucial that they learn as children that skill that they need of confidence and how to, because it helps them set boundaries. And it's important in so many areas of life. It's some things that even as parents who may not have issues at all did not learn. Because if you're from the era in which I'm from, we learned the importance of respect. And respect looks differently in different eras. In our era, it meant every adult that spoke to you, no matter what they requested, to some degree, you were required to not have boundaries with that, to not have no mean anything to them. That's why I thought it was such an interesting conflict as an adult that we are taught that we should have boundaries. Lots of people don't have any because we did not understand, because we weren't being prepared to be adults around other adults. There was an age group in which those people that were your parents' age had authority over you in every aspect. That meant your neighbor could spank you, anyone could spank you. Was that wrong? Not necessarily, but there are other areas in which it traps you in a mindset for many people where we don't have any boundaries to the degree that when we are around other adults, we still in some way see ourselves as children. That's why there's that disconnect between many of us who when you're in the mirror, you see the age you are and what you look like. But in other ways, you are mentally diminished emotionally when you're in certain situations, or younger people call it trigger. Trying to prepare your children in a way in which they can protect, defend, and guide their own life is crucial, because you may not always be around. And it's important that they be able to direct themselves when you are not present around other adults, whether they're a child, and as they become adults, so that they see that they have rights, that people shouldn't do mean stuff to them. People shouldn't request that they do inappropriate things, and what is appropriate and inappropriate. Um, and I don't mean just in a way in which you will possibly be molested or things of that nature, but even being guided to do things that are morally questionable. Sometimes adults can push you in that direction, and if you feel that they have authority over you, not realizing that you have power too. Being able to say no to other things as well, things that will be too emotionally too much for you, financially too much for you, um, situations that make you just uncomfortable. For my daughter, for the longest time, she would say yes to things that she didn't want to do, but then she sometimes would do it, and sometimes she would. But I saw something today that made me happy in a way that I kind of was proud of her, which, let me explain, it sounds different to other parents. For instance, she would say she wants something that you asked her that she want when she really didn't want it. And then you are trying to push her for something she really clearly did not want. She'll, if you say, "Do you want a waffle?" She doesn't want a waffle, but she felt obligated because you asked her as her parent or another adult to agree with you in that particular moment. And then later she's being pushed towards, why did you agree or say you wanted a waffle when you never really did? So now you didn't eat it. And that way, in those instances, adults try to force people into that. And as adults, we get forced into situations where sometimes we want to say no to a particular situation. So you're made to look like a bad person when, in honest, if you're being honest, you never wanted that. Whatever that particular situation was, that job, this particular thing that someone wanted you to do, or being goaded into loaning someone money that you knew that they couldn't pay you back and you didn't want to do it, but you felt powerless in some way because in some part of us, because it's an older person or someone in authority over our life, we feel compelled to comply. And in some people's situations on the job, it has put them in moral dilemmas for something they knew was unethical to do. But because this person they felt like had power over them, they never realized their own power. For children, for parents that are special, of children that have special needs, it's important that they have those life skills and we give them that belief system that they have a right to not agree with things that they don't want to. For my daughter, she finally said no. Today I was so proud because I asked her, was she ready to eat breakfast? Now, usually we have been going back and forth for a while for this little thing that she'd say yes. She'd say yes. You want some oatmeal? Yes. And then you make her the oatmeal. She doesn't eat it, and we're dragging this whole conversation. And today she said, "No, I don't want breakfast." I said, "Well, how about you try it?" "No, I don't want to try it." I was so proud of her for finally having that moment because that was the fear that I had been dealing with, sitting with in my own personal spirit, that I was worried that I would send her to a program or whatever, and someone would guide her somewhere and she might be in danger because she is accustomed to being in the mindset that anybody that was over in authority over her, that she had to do what they said. And for a lot of parents who have special needs children, we live in fear of that our children won't understand that everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart. And if something in you, your instincts or intuition tells you that this person is guiding you somewhere that you don't want to go, or they don't have pure intentions, it's okay if you say, "I'm not going to go. I'm not going to participate. I don't want to do this." In a lot of instances, because they don't have that life skill or that we've been taught or given them that special permission, where in which we teach them that sometimes it's okay for them to say no to us, they don't believe they have a permission to say no to others. Because when we send them to school or they're working or any of those situations, they've been taught that they have to follow those, all that are governing the rules in their environment. And as a parent, particularly with a, a child that is becoming an adult female, an adult woman, it scares you a little bit. You're worried that they'll go to work and someone will say, "I need to talk to you in the back room," and it's not what they claim that you're going to have a conversation about. I've had personal situations as an adult where I have had to deal with conversations that I did not want to have because it wasn't a conversation that was a conversation that was work related. And it turned in, it was in turn them actually trying to do something to me. And me just deciding I'm just leaving this job, this environment. And but not knowing whether or not that they would have the ability to even convey to you that they were uncomfortable. So for her to have done that, I was so pleased. I actually told her, I'm so happy that you felt comfortable to tell me that you did not want it. It's okay if you don't want that. Because we have to give them permission to do that. I've had other adults tell me that I needed to make her do certain things when I said no, because I don't want her to believe that everybody has the right to make her do things that she doesn't want to do, that won't, it's not breaking any rules, and it's actually her personal rights and decisions. It's important that they know that they have rights and decisions. It's important that they know that they can set clear boundaries, even if it offends other people. It's not their job to make everybody like them. And it's okay if people don't like them. If they're not doing that person personal injury or harm. And sometimes it's going to be necessary that you say no to people, even if it does hurt their feelings. And as adults, that sometimes we have that struggle internally with ourselves, that the ones that we love and family members and friends and co-workers, that we give ourselves permission sometimes that though we love them, we have to tell them no, that we are not a child, even if this person is the manager and they're older than us, or an employee that works for us but they're older than us. It's okay to tell your employees, even if they're family members, no, I know you want this day off for this party or this vacation, but you don't have the time left in your schedule, in your employment plan for this. You don't have the, you're not going to get paid for this, and you can't be off. You no longer have these days, and this is for a frivolous reason. I know we're friends, but this isn't okay. So we have to give ourselves permission, because sometimes we still have that inner child that as an adult we're still operating in that. We're still operating in that energy and in that space. But as parents, we have to give ourselves permission to teach our children what we want to help them have their adult life look like, so that they have permission to also guiding their own decisions and trusting that they can make decisions for their life and what that'll look like. Sometimes as parents, we forget the significance of having our decisions supported, even if it isn't what other people think that our life, our career should look like. Even if it is, even things that are recreational and what that looks like. I've had to come to terms with the fact that my children may not choose what I want them to choose, no matter how much effort I put into it. I have to know the effort that I'm supposed to be putting it into it is helping them to decide what they want to do. Shaping someone shouldn't look like you trying to live vicariously through them. Protection isn't necessarily guiding them to what you think they'll be good at, but helping them choose their own personal creativity and trusting their own process and deciding what their life will look like for them, even economically. I was talking to someone earlier, and the discussion we were having was what it looks like when you have special needs kids and as they become adults. Sometimes people have special needs kids and they will not use the words, my child is special needs, because that's not the space in which they're trying to live in. That's not what they're trying to focus on. Because I like to use the term differently able. Now, depends on where their children are. Some people recognize it in their children, and sometimes they don't. But they have internalized the thought process that their children do things differently than other people. So it's not necessary to try to always weigh in on what you think other people's process should be. For me, I'm working on more effective listening, because for other people, my opinion may seem pushy when it's suggestive. But sometimes we don't have the whole picture, and they won't tell you that the reason their child lives at home is because they were in other programs or there were other things going on. And so, because of that, they feel that their child would be better served staying within their home as a form of protection. Now, do we want to smother our children? Absolutely not. But it's not our place to encourage someone else to put their child out saying that they are an adult or this or that when we don't know the whole scope of what it is. When in truth, they may be happy that their child has a job and they are functioning in that way. They are content in where they work. Sometimes we look at a situation and say, oh, they could be doing this, oh, they could be doing that. And once you start to communicate with them, you begin to realize that they're content where they are because they've already recognized not their limitation, but the gifts that they do have, and recognizing that as a gift, that they can do these things versus focusing on what they're not doing or what they can't do. Knowing that what they are doing is enough will help them so much more than putting pressure from this perspective of people that don't necessarily understand what's going on with your child. That's not a conversation that you owe other people to have. It's important that your child know that whatever they're working on is enough. And if you can help them to another stage, that's fine. But they should not feel like if they're not performing a particular kind of job that's disappointing to you. It's important that they feel confident in what they're doing, not the stress and the pressure of feeling like they are less than because someone else has told you that your child is not doing enough. And we have to be careful that we're not that person either, because there have been instances when I was that person, only to discover later there was a lot that I did not recognize. There were other dynamics. So, from the perspective of others hearing that, then they begin to distance themselves because they know that you don't know, that you're not emotionally aware of what their particular situation is, i.e., occasionally not aware in regards to your own child, what they need. So that's what we've been working on in our household, helping our children to develop sound decisions. And with my son, he's doing better with being more confident when it comes to his work. I remember I had a teacher once who, after she met my mom, she realized what a poor choice it was. But clearly, there was something going on with her. But the issue that we had was I wasn't confident in a correct answer I had. It was a math equation. I was in the seventh grade. I was going to set Tuxedo Elementary. I'll never forget it. She, and I won't say her name, but other people know. Even if they weren't there, they know what that instructor was because later she was indicted for some issues that she was clearly having. Yes, I said indicted. But and it wasn't related to the classroom, but it was some other things that were going on. But she grabbed my nose between two of her fingers and started to twist. Now, had I had a bone there, She could have broke my nose, but because my nose is small and it was just really red. Well, but unfortunately for her, and fortunately for her, one, the angels were with my mama, and what was unfortunate for her was my mom was standing at the door and saw it. She didn't realize that Loretha had showed up that day and was standing in the doorway and saw her through the door. Anybody that know my mom know that ain't it. So I had to have a talk with her and ask her, please don't go in there so you don't go to jail. Because what she was wanting to do was help her with her nose. But as a parent, yes, you do need to intervene with your kids sometimes. But there would have been instances where, as a child, one, had my mom not seen that, I don't know that I would have said anything. And two, as an adult, there have been moments that I tolerated managers not necessarily putting their hands on me, but doing other things, and could have confronted upper management, but felt powerless in those moments. We want to give our children permission to understand what is inappropriate so that they don't get bullied on the job, so that they understand that also that we don't have the right to be their bullies. Whether we are asking them what they want to eat, down to what are they going to wear. If they're not doing anything inappropriate or wrong, they need to have the permission to understand that they have a right to set personal boundaries, and that we also have to be emotionally and intellectually prepared to parent our children in a way in which we understand that we're teaching other people how to treat our children by treating them how we do in front of other people. See, I learned to accept and understand from the perspective as a parent now that my parents weren't perfect, that my mom wasn't perfect, that my dad wasn't perfect. But from the perspective of the era in which we grew up in, I understood that they didn't understand, that family members, friends, neighbors, strangers, that they were parenting me in front of, they were giving those people permission to treat me that way. And they were giving me permission to allow them to give others permission. We were passing the permission on. And what, as parents, we have to be careful not to do that. Not just to our special needs kids, especially them, but to our children as well. Giving them permission to protect themselves, to set those boundaries, to guide their own life, and to understand nobody has the right to take away their rights, whether it be to touch them inappropriately at work, to bully them by hitting them or verbally abusing them, or trying to bully them or force them into doing things that they don't want to do, whether it be morally poor decisions or doing something unethical because other people are participating in it. See, sometimes our children even get forced into, and I do say forced, because there are instances where they're in high school or middle school and you're not present, that they'll be offered things. And the reason that they don't say no to drugs or cigarette or alcohol is because they don't feel that they have the right to tell other people no when they apply pressure. So we have to be careful that we make it clear to them that their opinion matters to us, i.e., it matters to other people, even if those people don't agree. And it's okay for them to walk away from those people, whether they be friends or family members, co workers. neighbors, clergymen. If someone is trying to force you into anything that you don't agree to, that's how people get bullied at school, and people end up giving their lunch money away because they gave that person permission by agreeing to even stand there and entertain the conversation. Because you don't have to continue a conversation that you don't want to. Walking away is a statement. Saying no is a statement. Sometimes the consequences that we think will happen won't happen. My mother in law calls it getting your bluff in early. And she meant that in the style of parenting your children and encouraging them to understand that you do have authority. But we also have to make them understand that they have authority too. My father used to always let me know you do have authority when it comes to making a choice, but be careful the choice that you make. Now, he made it clear that in our household, when it came to governing the household and how things were going to go, it was a totalitarian rulership, meaning you could weigh in. It didn't necessarily change anything, but we govern how everything goes. And he meant that. But there was never a time in which I had a conversation with my father where I ever felt disrespected. Sometimes by disrespecting our children's decisions and communicating with them and making sure that they understand that you do care what they think, we train them to disrespect you, your mate, their other parent, other people, and sometimes themselves. By doing that, we also allow them to sometimes get pressured into sex and things of that matter because we have made them believe that if someone pressures you, or allow them to believe that if someone pressures you, you have to go along with it. You don't. Walking away is a right. Getting up and leaving is a right. Them not being your friend is not the end of the world. Them saying they're going to tell your parents, whether that be an adult, because sometimes they use that as a threat. I'm going to tell your parents if you don't do this or you don't do that, that you were doing that. Tell them. People understanding that the higher power is our Heavenly Father. And I'm more concerned with what He thinks than what anybody else thinks. Because we forget sometimes that He actually, in live time, sees us every day. So we can't be concerned necessarily what humans think because their opinion changes based on the wind. The same person that said they don't want to be your friend right now may be your friend later. And the same person that may be your enemy now may be your friend later, further down the road, because they see that you protect and can control your own situation. So it's important that we make sure that we are giving them purpose in their life and understanding that they do have gifts and they do have purpose. And even the things that aren't going well doesn't mean it won't go better later. And that they have no control just because the things that they wish to go a certain way isn't going the way that they think that it should right now, or what it looks like it's going like for other people. You don't have to have everyone's approval, but you do have to have your own. And that's what matters most. Thank you all for joining me again with a special agenda. You all have a wonderful night. Be kind to those, even when other it doesn't feel like you're going to receive it back in turn, because kindness is in fact a choice. Good night. Love you guys.